Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Bowden, one of the rising fourth-year neurosurgery residents here at OHSU. We put together this presentation to introduce our program to anyone interested, but in particular our residents and our lives in and outside of neurosurgery. This is a site you'll become familiar with over the course of this talk, the view from our neurosurgery ward looking east towards Mount Hood at sunrise. Before we introduce the team, I'd like to cover a few major points surrounding our program. We've got 4 clinical sites, a university hospital, children's hospital, VA, and a community hospital. Most are centrally located on the Hill, which limits our overnight and home call burden and allows us to have conferences as a big group. We've nearly completed a transition from 3 to 3 residents per year to 3 a year. We have 4 unprotected months during our 3rd year and a full, completely protected 5th year for research, but we'll talk a little more about that in a moment. The University Hospital is, as you'd expect, our busiest hospital. We've got all the gadgets and gizmos you'd want and run many ORs every day. Our education is supplemented here by a couple fellows in cerebrovascular and functional neurosurgery. The operative experience here is heavily cranial and open vascular tumor and functional. And the University Hospital plays host to a weekly 2-hour conference block covering a variety of topics in neurosurgery and related disciplines. The Children's Hospital is pretty busy as well, with a large faculty and a fellow. The VA is reportedly the busiest spine hospital in Oregon and a fantastic operative experience for the residents there. We've just finished our 1st year going out to Tuolumne, and it's been a great addition for the residency as more of a community practice with a big deformity and degenerative spine volume. And I promise you won't get sick of this view if you're on the Hill. They don't like to tell you this, but there are some perks to residency. Here we've got an academic fund to buy textbooks, computers, or pay for courses or conference travel. The department, of course, pays our way to meetings if we're presenting at them, like many other departments. We get loops our intern year and lead our 3rd year outside of that academic fund. We get to meet with our program leadership every other month to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. Fortunately, there's often not a lot to complain about, but it has led to some very important changes in the past. The residents at large here have unionized, but we don't know what that means for us yet. As it stands, we get plenty of money, around $300 for meals every month, and have 3 weeks of 9-day vacations. We started a beginning of year retreat 2 years ago, going to the coast with our incoming interns, and it's been a blast so far. Dr. Hahn, our associate PD, takes us out for happy hour about once a month. You could call it Triple H therapy if you're into that kind of thing. Dr. Burchell, our former chair, hosts parties for us at his house for so-called meetings of the club nucleus accumbens. But, overall, we have a great working and personal relationship with the faculty. I personally feel very close to many of them, and it makes for really enviable departmental culture. This is a photo from pediatric neurosurgery rounds last year. So now to us. Jacob and Joe Ling here are our graduating chiefs in 2021. They're both all-stars. Chief residents here have about 80 open aneurysm clippings, 50 awake craniotomies for tumor, and a wide variety of other cases to choose from. Jacob's an East Coaster. He'll finish up his endovascular training here after doing an enfolded year during his research time. Then he'll stay on the West Coast and do an open cerebrovascular fellowship at Stanford. Joe Ling is originally from Malaysia, but has been in the States since college. She is going to apply into a pediatric fellowship after spending some time doing pediatric neurosurgery in Kure, Uganda during her research time. Our 3 senior residents get a good case variety as well. Diverse backgrounds and diverse interests among them. Eric's love for surfing probably trumps any single hobby of any other resident, maybe ever. Pre-call, post-call, maybe just hopefully not on-call. He's at the coast getting pitted, catching swells, or something. Anyway, Sonny's an outstanding mentor to the juniors as an accomplished pianist in a former life, and we go to Alessandra for local pasta reviews, and she's pretty good to talk to about functional neurosurgery as well. 5th year is research year. Experiences are as variable as the residents doing it. Clinical stuff, basic science stuff, translational stuff. Recent grants in the past 2 years have been from the NREF, the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, the Joint CV section. These guys, as a class, I feel very close to. They branded themselves the Band of Brothers their intern year, and mentored us very well when we showed up the following year. I can vouch that they'll be fantastic chiefs soon enough. Nasser's love of pizza nearly rivals Eric's love of big waves, while David is an accomplished former football player and Eric Larson has like 20 brothers and sisters and used to be in the Air Force. These guys are a trip and very close to each other outside of the hospital, so close in fact that Nasser and David lived next door to each other their intern year. Their favorite story is that they didn't realize this until the first day of orientation when they both opened their front doors at the same time. The rest is history. And just in case you forgot about it, there's another picture of Mount Hood. This is me and my 2 hooligan co-residents. Our 4th year is an operative-heavy year with a lot of autonomy. Lots of spine, as I mentioned, and a diverse pediatric practice. Beyond that, we have juniors for the first time, so we've got to figure out how to hone our leadership skills and get the most out of our teams. I'm from the East Coast, spending 10 years in New York City before realizing that nature was a pretty great thing. And coming out here. I'm planning to go into neuro-oncology, but in the meantime still play the piano and get outside as much as I can, any way that I can. Dominic in the middle is one of our few locals and is our resident Einstein. He'll come up with a great idea in a day, write a grant on it, and then do it 5 more times that week. Miner is our resident deadlifter, if there were such a thing, but contrary to his personal squat and bench records, he's just a real smart guy who likes to drink beer and watch the Portland Timbers. And I told you Dominic was a little goofy. 3rd year. No longer 2nd year. It's an almost promised land of operating a bit more with a lot more freedom and taking a lot less call. They also get to go to the run course, which is an absolute blast, and a few free days off. Our fundamentals time during these years are a real treat, a chance to crank research efforts up in anticipation of 5th year. Ali is from Georgia. He's our resident philosopher, and I'm told has a cat that he'd love for you to adopt. Brandon is a proud Texan, former collegiate volleyball player, and I'm told has no cats. And Dan is a Massachusetts guy who I just learned hasn't eaten a lobster roll since he's been out here. If that's not disturbing, I don't know what is. They took this picture right before their 2nd year, and the irony was lost on no one. So 2nd year is the workhorse year here, as at many places. You take a fair amount of call with a 12-hour call followed by a 24 every few days. These guys were all killer interns, and we're excited to have them take the pager. Christian and Miriam both grew up in Southern California, while Aaron is from Hawaii. Christian has an impressive research background in healthcare disparities and other big data, while Miriam dreams of meningiomas, and Aaron just got the cutest dog in the world that, no, you can't under any circumstances adopt. And they all like soccer a lot. And from our archives, here's Christian on his interview day with us. No, we don't always have llamas at our interview dinners, but sometimes if we walk around downtown Portland afterward for long enough, we might run into one. Post-call days here are pretty great. This trail is a little over an hour away and is pretty nice even into November, which is when this picture was taken. Intern year is a sampling of different things as anywhere, but it's highlighted for us by a robust critical care experience and 2 months of endovascular neurosurgery. We're excited to start working with these guys, but maybe most excited to ski with them. So that's us, but just as much us is what we do outside of work. You can see some of the pictures here from a retreat at the coast with a golf outing in the middle, David's wedding on the top right, the West Coast volleyball tournament bottom left, and Jacob hanging out with the llama on the bottom right. There are always a few ski outings every year, whether it's just a couple of us or a group. The Mount Hood ski resorts are just an hour and a half away, so pretty easy to get up to. Dr. Hahn invited us over for sushi one night. Making sushi is one of his personal hobbies, and Eric is shown here taking people surfing, which is one of his personal hobbies. Again, more skiing, surfing, as well as a Dr. Birchall-led fly fishing lesson. Bottom right is a pizza iftar to celebrate the end of Ramadan last year, and the top right is a COVID-induced Zoom pizza iftar to celebrate the beginning of Ramadan this year. Now moving on to more organ-focused promotion here. These are all photos that I've taken over the past 3 years just on my time off. Again, I like to get outside, and these areas are all readily accessible from Portland. The picture on the bottom left is about a 30-minute drive from the hospital. Bottom right is about a 60-minute drive. The pictures above that are just over an hour away. Mount Hood is a favorite of all Portlanders, about an hour and a half away, has ski resorts, like I mentioned, tons of hiking trails, and mountaineering routes if you're into that kind of thing. And Mount St. Helens is a volcano to the north that I know a few of us have summited. View from the crater rim is a really breathtaking thing. That's Mount Rainier off into the distance. There are just as many trails around the mountain that are just as beautiful as actually climbing to the top of it. Tons of waterfalls everywhere, almost too many to count. And the coast is a great place to spend a weekend. I spend more of my time in the mountains, but I know some residents really like just renting a place out on the coast and spending a little bit of time by the water. Crater Lake and Mount Rainier are the two closest national parks. Crater Lake's about 4 hours to the south, Mount Rainier 3 hours to the north. Both beautiful places to take a weekend. So that's all we've got. This is my ride home from work on the hospital's cable car. As you can see, there's a lot to be said for this place. It's a real privilege to be training here, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about us. You can follow our Brain Institute accounts on Instagram and Twitter at the handles shown there. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you have any questions about our program. Thanks again for taking the time to learn a little bit more about us, and we hope to see you down the road.